guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Colton with BearScareBeauty, back again, and I'm a little sunburnt right now, so I look like a tomato. Anyways, this has been like the 6th video that I've filmed, and the previous 5 are never going to see the light of day. I have been very stressed, I've been very depressed, yeah, anyways, things are not great in the world right now, and I didn't want any of my content to potentially take away from any of the protests happening, because we're like still in the middle of a civil rights movement, and at the time of filming this, the protests are still happening, though the news has like basically stopped covering any of it. So yeah, keep protesting. And then something else, and this has been in every single video that I have filmed, and that's not going to be uploaded, but it just keeps getting worse. Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star no longer have any of my support. I'm probably going to keep using the mirror. I paid for it. It's not going to unpay them. I'm no longer going to talk about them or any of their products on my channel. I'm also no longer watching them, following them on any social media. Shane literally just came out with an apology video, and in the wake of losing Jenna Marbles, which I took a lot harder than I feel like I have any right to, given that I've never met her. Yeah, no, not a win, Shane. Bye. Now that that's out of the way, I have a friend on Discord that wanted me to do a dark wizard kind of look, but more lichy. So we're gonna do a little bit of that. We're gonna get into a little bit of Scarwax, but not too much. I want to keep this relatively simple because it's going to be very cosplay-y, and it's just a dark wizard, right? There's not a lot going on. But what they said is they couldn't really find any videos on like how to do looks and things like that, because everything is like a Pinterest post. And then of course when they look at it, it was like hyper glam, and they want kind of more of a male toned down realistic one, which is great. It's gonna give me something else to do that isn't like glam makeup, and isn't special effects that I don't have the time, patience, or mental capacity to deal with right now. Yeah, you need to recharge your batteries. Don't let it wait too long, because it becomes a problem. We're just gonna get into it. So I'm going to actually use like foundation and stuff like that. You can do whatever you want, but we are going to change it a little bit. So I'm just going to take a stippling brush and some foundation. Let me pull you guys up. So I'm just taking a stippling brush with some foundation on it, and I'm gonna start from the center of my face and work out, and I'm trying to really avoid the under eyes since we're actually going to kind of leave those. And oh, Jesus Christ, that was a lot of foundation on this brush. I just coated the entire back of my hand. I know I look really pale, but it does kind of dry down, and it dries down to a more golden tone. So I'm just going to take some white concealer, and this stuff dries really fast, so I gotta work fast. And I'm gonna try to kind of pale up certain areas. Now, I'm not going full glam, so I'm not actually trying to highlight the eye, but I do wanna highlight like right here, a little bit right here. And I do want to lighten the forehead down onto the bridge of the nose, kind of like right here. And I'm actually going to kind of wipe off the foundation I put on my nose because I'm a silly goose, and we're going to put some Scarwax down. And now, since I'm kind of trying to pale everything up, now that it's blended out, I'm gonna kind of blend it up all over my head and kind of down. Most of the product is still right there, so it's a little lighter, but I'm kind of blending it in with the rest of the face. Just kind of diffusing under the eyes so there's not quite a harsh line. And see, we can already see on the sides of the face, I mean, obviously the forehead looks a little more pale, but right here and how it kind of makes my cheekbone pop a little bit more, it's more what we're going for. Okay, I look much more pale now, which is fine. That's what we're going for. Now, let me just go clean off my nose because I'm a goof. Party. Now that I got my nose cleaned off, I'm going to put down a thin layer of Prozade just where I'm looking to get some Synwax to stick. It's also appropriately called nose wax. So I'm just making a little triangular bean of Scarwax, and I'm just plopping it right down. And I'm really trying to, because I'm actually probably gonna take a lot of this off. So we're gonna have the nose kind of go down and then like point up, like it's the bridge of the nose actually peeking through the flesh. And I'm just gonna start smoothing down them edges. For people that don't work with Scarwax that often, it is absolutely a cruel mistress. It occasionally just does what it wants, and it doesn't care what you want. So I'm just dipping my fingers into some petroleum jelly, and I'm just trying to marry it to my nose. Just gonna take a little scalpel tool, and I'm just gonna chop into it, just. Gotta be in the light. Cut it off. Now I'm kind of going through the process of like re-smoothing some of the edges. We do still want to leave a harsh edge right here though, because I want it to look like it's pushing up and a little bit through the skin. But there's going to still be skin there because this is supposed to be like a guise, like a vanity that the Lich has cast on itself. Just gonna take some of that leftover foundation, blippity bloppity bloop it in my face. And the stippling brush is actually kind of moving around the Scarwax, so I'm just gonna take the sponge and gently go over it. And the great thing about this, since it's supposed to look kind of corrupted and gross and rotting and everything, if your foundation looks gross on you, you're good, you're golden, you're going for it. It's a look. Taking more of that white concealer, and I'm just going to a lot of bit on that nose part there, and I think it needs just a little bit more on the sides because we are going to reshape the face, right? That's essentially what we're trying to do right now, is redefine the planes of the face and then also kind of using it as like a mix-in medium. I'm going to take, this is one of the Krylon color wheels, and I'm gonna take this deep brown right here. This is on a like a flat stippling paddle brush. It's a Delium Tools 175. I'm being very careful just to get the very tips of the brush. You don't need to use this brush, obviously. You can just use any really fine point brush, but what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start working right up under the eyes. Gonna kind of wipe a bunch of that pigment off, and it's already kind of bringing the eyes down, which is what I want, and I'm just going to be gently flicking down. I'm really just trying to use the tips of the brush for this. And we're also gonna bring in some other colors as well because I want it to look like sickly. And then we're also probably going to bring in some shadows to really carve out the orbital socket. It might make it look a little cartoony, but I think it will also kind of give it almost like a Red Skull from Captain America effect. So there we go. I mean, my eyes are already looking super, right? You could just stop there, do the same thing up here and bring it out a little bit so they look more sunken in, but we're not gonna stop there. I'm just gonna take the same brush, make sure, you know, most of the pigment's off. I'm just swirling it on the back of my hand. And now I'm going to dip into, this is kind of a bruisey red. It's from a different Krylon palette. I believe this is the Zombie palette? No, this is the Monster palette, there we go. Very gently loading it on the brush. And I'm gonna kind of do it down a little further, and I'm still gonna flick down. And I'm also gonna kind of bring that into the eye socket, almost as if you were doing eyeshadow. And see, it's just leaving a nice trace of kind of a bruisey red there. You could do this with alcohol paints, but why torture yourself? Like literal torture. I'm gonna kind of get the tips a little more saturated, and I'm going to gently stipple. And I'm kind of turning the brush, and this is gonna kind of give it like a capillary look. And then whatever's left, I'm bringing up on the eyes. Now, I also want to bring up, you don't need to buy a $25 Krylon cream paint palette to do this. You can get... See, the eyes are looking nice and drawn out. We're gonna add a little more depth of color. I'm just gonna take a stippling brush, and we're gonna dip into this kind of sickly green. And I'm really only trying to get it like on one side of the brush. It's a very pigmented green too, so I'm tapping out a lot on the back of my hand. And I'm gonna kind of go right under that brown. And I'm gonna flick it up. And it's fine if it's like a little chunky looking, right? Like you put it on with a stippling brush, because you did. And you're looking for texture. You want some texture in your look. It's also fine to not be symmetrical with something like this, right? Since very rarely is anything going to decompose or show age or anything like that perfectly symmetrically. So it's totally fine to be a little messy and be a little asymmetrical with it. I'm gonna bring in some green on one of the eyes, like on the inner corner right there, so it looks like I'm a little more sickly. Now, I will take that flat top stippling brush again, and I'm gonna try to, because I got a little overboard right here, I'm just gonna try to soften it a little bit by poking at it. And draw down a little bit of the red that's still in the brush. Which is great. It's great. Okay. Now for the rest of the face, gonna go a little broader. This is just a wedge sponge that I've like picked at with tweezers and cut up. I don't really know if you can see it. So it's got a lot of texture to it. And I'm gonna dip into this gray right here. Kind of squeezing it so it's pinchied. Yeah, I got some gray on there. And I'm gonna still pinchy it, and I'm just gonna I'm just barely touching my skin. And this is just a gray hue that we're using. I'm just taking the clean side, And I'm just tapping over anywhere I think is a little too obvious, but that's just gonna kind of give us a mottled skin texture, right? Okay, I'm actually gonna take the same sponge and we're gonna dip into blue, and that's gonna give it a little more, the look of like veins or like vascularity under the skin, but I'm gonna try to keep it more on the cheekbones. If that makes sense. Making sure it's not too overpowering. Yeah. So you have this nice like kind of blue patina breaking through the skin right there. I'm also gonna hit it just a little bit on the forehead, but not too much. So I'm not looking to really overpower any of the colors. We just want it to kind of look like you're aging. You get kind of like age spots. The blue breaks through your skin, you know? And now because I have a too much gene, we're gonna do the same thing with this yellow. And I just need to make sure that it's very gentle. Ooh, that is not a gentle yellow. So, ooh, yeah, no, she's a lot. I just dabbed the excess off, and I'm gonna go like around the mouth a little bit, and then drag it up into the cheeks. And then, yeah, a little bit on the nose. And we'll bring it up the sides of the face. The yellow, since it kind of blends in with the skin, now that I've worked most of it off in certain areas, kind of going a little more buck wild with it, which is fine. So I'm just giving myself a really aged look. Now I think I've lost a little darkness under the eyes, so I'm gonna go back in with that brown just on that flat top stippling brush and just gently poke, because it's a much softer color than the red, and by soft I mean formula-wise. I'm gonna take that up into the eye socket almost like I'm doing makeup. I'm gonna work the excess off on my hand again. I'm gonna use that, and once again I'm just gonna flick this up this time since I don't want to blend it down too much. And then just on the eye socket I'll just kind of press it in and around. And once again that's just kind of deepening the eye socket and giving us kind of a more mottled appearance. And now I'm gonna flick it down just a tiny bit. And now, since I need to disguise the nose a little bit, there's this more flesh tone shade right up top. Just taking that on the sponge, and I'm kind of going over the Scarwax. And I'm taking it down into the face. Hitting it on the rest of the nose too, and then I'm just gonna take whatever color I have left and roll it onto the nose. This is just a fine little dagger brush. It's actually a veining brush. And I'm actually gonna dip into the black in the dead center here. It's a very pigmented black though. And I'm actually just going to work this right along the edge. So we have that nice line where it is. And actually, shit, I think I'm gonna take just a tiny bit right into like the inner corner of the eye. And I'm actually gonna tap this out on the lid at the top too. That's more than a tiny bit. It's gonna give it a lot of drama. Just taking a flat kind of paddle brush, and I'm gonna use that to work that around. Now, it does diffuse really well, so it's more of like a gray tone now, but just trying to add texture. Kind of using it to push up on the black on the nose too, because I don't necessarily want it to bleed too far down. It's just kind of supposed to look like a line, right? Like there's a clear break. And now into some fun stuff. We are going to contour, just using the ABH contour kit. It's the one that I usually go to. I'm going to take the middle one since it's the more cool toned, and I'm just taking it on a dagger brush. And I'm going to make theatrical cheekbones, so I'm going like down, in, and down. And I'm gonna do that on both sides. I'm gonna try to make it even, so bear with me. Yes, I know it's a harsh line here, but we'll fix it. I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna push it back. I'm gonna take my sponge. I'm gonna start blending that out. And it's important to blend down when you're doing this too. You don't really want to blend up, because you don't want to take it up into the face. You're trying to bring the face down and make it more skeletal. Just to bring a little more life back in, I'm going to take that stippling sponge with all the different colors, and I'm going to kind of use that to go over where we just contoured. Taking that same brush, and we're going to kind of flick up right here, and then we're going to kind of down and back a little bit. So we want a heavier contour right there, and I'm actually going to blend that out right now. So we're kind of shaping the skull to be a little more bulbous looking right there. Catches a lot of shadow that way. And it kind of brings your eyes forward too. So it makes you look more skeletal again. And I'm gonna do that on the other side, the side that my hair is always in front of. And it's important when you're doing that to kind of follow the shape of your forehead too. So you're like bringing it up and around, so it kind of pokes the whole forehead out and forward rather than just straight back, because that kind of just gives you this like weird angular cut in, whereas you want it to curve around your face. Now I am going to contour the nose on this guy, because I want it to look like quite a lithe nose. So I just took whatever I had left over on the brush, as you can see. And I'm gonna take the flatter edge of this, since I don't want a lot of mistake. And that kind of brings the nose forward a little bit. I'm gonna take that stippling brush that we used earlier that had the green on it, and I'm just gonna use it to kind of bring some of the green and blue into that brown again. Dipple-dapple that all over. You know, why not? There's no rules. There's no rules here. This is where we are right now with the face. So you can see it's pretty intense around right here, since that's where a lot of the attention is. Now we're gonna move into some powders. This is just kind of a cool tone brown I'm going to use as a contour. And I'm still focusing on the same areas. This time I will start flicking it up just a little bit though. Really gonna drive home the idea of what we're doing. Gonna hit the temples a little bit just with the powder, and now, or yeah, kind of the upper temple hairline, and now I'm gonna re-hit the actual temples. Once again, making sure that I'm kind of curving up into the actual forehead. So that's that on the contour. It's pretty intense and extreme, but this is not a subtle makeup look. So I want the eyes to look pretty sickly. So just on a fluffy brush, I'm actually dipping into Karma from the BH 1991 palette. It's this nice mustardy yellow. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Just tapping off a little bit of the excess. And I'm not really trying to be like too precise or anything like that. I just want like a nice kind of yellow around the eyes. It's fine if it sits on top of the creams too, but it's gonna give it that extra sense of dimension and just make it look a little more ill. Kind of work it in on the inner corner too, because we didn't really do a whole lot with the inner corner. And the same thing on the other eye. Once again, messy, doesn't need to be symmetrical, doesn't matter. See, now that the lights... So especially right there on the inner corners with that yellow, it's really added a lot to kind of like push the eyes back and suck the nose forward without using like literal shadow, like literal darker shadows, you know? Going to use some of the darker shades in this Buxom palette. This is just a little defining brush. I'm gonna take the lightest gray I have in this palette. This is probably a mistake, but we're gonna do it anyways. And I'm going to kind of just gently follow right above where we place that green and kind of connect it with the eye. And then pull it in pretty harshly. And I'm just barely tracing it along there. I don't want a lot of pigment to go down. This does have to be relatively symmetrical, so just keep that in mind. It's actually added a fair bit of depth to the under eyes right there. I'm just gonna take this as a really thin, like flimsy blending brush, and I'm just gonna kind of go over that gently. This shouldn't really disrupt any of the creams we have under it. It's just gonna help it kind of soften that line we put down. I'm actually gonna take the next darkest gray, and I'm just gonna hit some points where I really wanna show that depth. Same thing, same brush. So now that the eyes look really kind of sunken in, which is great, which is exactly what we want, it's gonna take that Karma shade again, and I'm gonna kind of like blotch it around the nose, just to kind of give it more texture. I think I'm actually gonna hit that in like a couple of places around the face. It's gonna give it the illusion of it being like kind of a sickly age spot, right? Tap it on and then circle it out. And it looks a little different than the yellow that was cream, because it has a little more impact, it has a little bit more of a tone, and then also it doesn't look as harsh. It's more of a, it's just a dot, you know? It's just a dot. It's a little extreme right there. I'm just gonna kind of try to... So, before I wrap this look up, I'm actually gonna do the lips, and this is something that I really enjoy, this particular combo, and I think it can actually bring a lot to certain looks, if that makes sense. I'm gonna start with a nude. This is the ColourPop Ultra Matte in Times Square. This is a shade that's basically my lips, but better. And I'm gonna start by lining my lips with this, essentially. It's fine if you got a little overline, whatever. And this is, once again, supposed to be a more masculine take on like a dark wizard. I can do a glam, like dark wizard, male glam dark wizard. I can totally do that, but I wanted to do this, and it was requested of me. So now that we have that on the outside, and really you can't tell that I'm wearing lipstick, it's almost my exact lip shade. This is just a NYX lip suede in the shade Alien. It's this nice like creamy black. These do not dry down completely. And I'm just gonna do like a little blobby in the center. We're gonna kind of work it out. This is just a literal paintbrush, and I'm gonna take it and like buff and blend. And that's a lip combo I really enjoy. It gives you these corpsey lips. Yes, so this is the final look of the kind of dark wizard Lich, if you will. It's a little skeletal, it's a little spooky. I think it's a relatively easily attainable look. It's got the nice angular features of kind of bringing this whole orbital area forward and kind of pushing the skull back. And then of course bringing the cheekbones forward. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, subscribe down below, it'd mean a lot. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, same way it's spelled here, BearScareBeauty. And I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you. Bye.